Today I'm going to make a tiny junk journal out of 5 sheets of paper from my recycling bin. These are the steps I'm going to follow. And then later in the video, I'm going to make my first tiny junk journal spread. So I'm just choosing 5 sheets of paper from my recycling bin. This is extra forms from getting my daughter enrolled in high school. And I'm just folding these 5 sheets in half and scoring it with my fingernail just enough so that I can rip it. And then I'm folding the half in half again. And what I'm doing here is creating what will be 4 signatures of a tiny junk journal. And I'm making this tiny junk journal because I've decided to participate in an art challenge. And I've never done an art challenge before. This is the 100-day project. And you choose a small creative project that you want to engage in every day. And I decided I would do a tiny junk journal spread every day for 100 days. And so I'm making the first 4 signatures of what will be a 5-signature tiny junk journal. And by the end of 100 days, I will have 100 tiny junk journal spreads. I decided to do this to keep me creating because we are in budget season in my school district, and I am one of the organizers of a campaign to make sure that we are budgeting for racial justice in our district. And it gets very busy and lots of intense thinking. And I just decided I wanted to make sure that I am doing something a little creative every day. And the 100 days of this challenge kind of coincided well with budget season in my school district. So I've created a glaze here, and I've used 3 different colors of paint that I've really been enjoying using together. And I've been creating a glaze with clear gesso lately. And I'm liking it because it has a little bit of a grainy texture. And so it's a little bit less plasticky than when I use Mod Podge or even gel medium to create a glaze. And this way my pages really just don't stick together as much, which I'm enjoying. And I just also am enjoying the feeling of the texture that's a little bit more grainy. Also, you'll see I'm using an old calendar as the surface for my palette. And I will later spread out the remaining bits of paint, and later I will probably cut this up or decorate it a little bit more, and then use it on some kind of piece of art. So you'll also notice that I'm emptying my brush of excess paint on some of these other junk journal pages that will be future spreads in my tiny JJ. I kind of like starting sometimes with a little bit of color already on the page, and I don't like wasting my paint, so it's a win-win. Here I'm using some scraps from another project, and I'm just starting to get a feel for how I want to lay out my collage pieces on my page. And I like that this recycled paper that was the foundation of this tiny JJ shows the emblem of our school district, and it says like Berkeley High or something like that. And I'm choosing to keep that visible because I just like that kind of nod to my location and the time that we're in terms of just putting a lot of attention to our school district. So here I'm painting on top of the glazed background. And I'm still painting with a glaze, but it's got a little bit more pigment, more paint, and less clear gesso. So it's a little bit more opaque, a little less transparent than what I initially laid down. And I'm just using a flat brush and creating, I think initially I did a square there, and now I'm adding stripes. And I'm just visually feeling my way across the page, what feels good to see, what colors, what shapes, what kind of texture do I want to see. And I know I'm going to go back in and add some collage pieces. So I just wanted the background to be a little bit more interesting. So when I can see little views of it through my collage pieces, that it will have a little more depth and a little more interest. These scraps are from some other project that I did recently, and I just really like having elements of something else that I was working on recently. Just kind of composting the old scraps into a new thing. Makes me happy. out my old trusty hole punch and making myself some dots, some little circles, using the scraps of another paper from a project I was working on recently. And I like the purple as a contrast to the orangey yellow. And I'm just adding these little dots here and there around the page. Now I'm just putting some wax paper between the pages because it's not completely dry. But before my paint dries, I want to spread it out on tomorrow's Tiny JJ spread, so I can start with some color on the page. I'll go back later in the day and go back to the spread I was working on today and add some dots and decorations with a gel pen. And I've decided I'm also going to be writing a few words on every page about whatever was occupying the bulk of my mind, what had the bulk of my attention that day.